Well, that's an understatement. I mean, what we see now is the real reason why Mr. Picard is making wild accusations left, right and centre, ranging from the Lloyd's report having been heavily redacted, doctored by the GSD, which we now know is false because Spark have published the original report and everybody can compare one with the other, or that the tanks on which the Lloyd's report was based was a single skin tank, which that again was also false, or indeed that I had somehow interfered with the electricity supply of the people of Gibraltar, again untrue and unfalse. And the reason for that is because he's trying to divert attention away from the central fact, which is the government took a policy decision to locate an LNG power station at the North Mole and the associated installations without having any safety report in place. And indeed, 4 years after the event, there still isn't any safety report in place. And what Lloyds are doing is not producing a safety report. What they're doing is scoping out the works. In other words, telling the government what safety reports they need in order to make this safe. I mean, that is a massive indictment of Mr. Picado's policy in this area.
That only emerged, of course, as a result of our interview with Mr. Brown, because when you reacted to the announcement by the government that it had reached an agreement with Lloyds, you welcomed the fact, as you saw it then, that Lloyds were going to produce a safety report. So evidently you didn't understand that yourselves.
Well, that's the problem with the government. You see, the government very often makes these very carefully drafted statements intended to create one impression, which is the impression that everybody in Gibraltar was left with, which was that the Lloyd's Register had been commissioned to produce a safety report. But now we know that actually that is not the case. What Lloyd's Register are doing is the scoping works to see what safety reports are necessary, and it may be them or it may be somebody else that produces a safety report. I mean, this all just simply contributes to the sense of mismanagement of the issue. Because the one salient fact of all this as well is, Stephen, that we were more prepared, we were more advanced with plans in relation to a power station in 2011, because we had all the contracts signed, the environmental impact assessments had been done in relation to the Lathbury Barracks power station, than this power station where we still don't even have safety reports.
Well, with the scoping arrangements not due to be ready before September and the full safety report, of course, still to come, it seems increasingly likely that there won't be a new power station under construction by the time of the election. And your own record is saying that if that happened, a GSD government wouldn't proceed with it at the location that the government has proposed, down at the North Mole and the detached mole. Is that still your position? Can you give us that firm undertaking?
That is still our position. We intend to fight this election campaign very clearly on one platform, and that is no to LNG. That's very, very clear, because we do not believe that the government's plans for an LNG power station at the North Mole and for LNG installations at the detached and the North Mole are safe. This project is going to be beset by huge problems, and it is better scrapping it and returning either back to the drawing board or, which is our preference, which was our original plans.
So if you do that and you do go back to the drawing board, as you say you might have to do, won't you in effect be doing what you accuse the government of doing? If you go back to the drawing board, you set everything back another 4 years and delay the construction and the delivery of a new power station even more?
No. Let's look at where we are now. How long will this power station take to be built? It's not going to be built within 4 years, or at most 4 years. How long will it take the GSD, if elected into government, to build a diesel power station at Lathbury Barracks?
You tell me.
4 years. So, so in actual fact, it's probably simpler and quicker to build a diesel power station at Lathbury Barracks than it is to build this particular LNG power station at the North Mole, with all the associated installations too, because remember, there's no point building an LNG power station if you can't supply it with LNG.
Okay.
And that's why you've got to take the project as a whole.
So are you giving me a firm undertaking today that if the GSD wins the election, you will build a diesel-fired power station at Lathbury Barracks in the next 4 years?
Absolutely, if the scenario that you posed to me in your original question is the correct one, which is that the government have not started the construction, and it's not a question of effectively having to demolish substantial parts of work that the government have done. And I just can't see that that is going to happen, because we're seeing that really the government isn't getting beyond first base.